Oh wow, we are live.
Hey!
We are live. We are live everywhere except Twitch again, because
Because we have a lot of
Twitch is
naughty
saying
words.
yes. So Twitch is. We just tried to go live. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, but Twitch just gave us a notification saying Twitch says the title is invalid. Try and changing it. Okay, let's see. Why did we put the triple K in the title?
Because how else do you describe?
Oh my god! All right. Well, YouTube is going to destroy. Like, YouTube is also not going to show this many people with this title.
I don't know how else to talk about that group
Okay,
when
so
people identify that we're talking about that group without using their title.
I mean, if this is in the title, we might as well. I don't know if we could say it now. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just for Twitch. I'm gonna say
Atheist Republic News number 155, because this is the 155th
AR News
episode.
number 155. Okay, I hope Twitch accepts this. Let's see, save changes, and then go live on Twitch. Yay, we're live on Twitch as well. If you are watching us on Twitch and you don't know what's just happened, is that we went live everywhere, YouTube and Facebook, but we couldn't go live on Twitch because the title was Twitch is sensitive with titles that they don't like, and we had triple K in the title. We had a whole bunch of other sensitive keywords. And Twitch was like, you can't go live. So we changed it, and now we're live everywhere, including Twitch. By the way, follow us on Twitch.
Deborah's back. Hi, Deborah. It's good to see you. Deborah's saying Armin complaining first thing.
I mean, I didn't even complain. I was just like, we can't go live on Twitch. We have to change the title. We have to. I'm not complaining. Like we adjusted. Now we're live everywhere. Oh, see, Soha is now on Twitch saying, hello, everyone.
Hey, hi, Suha. Go follow us on
Twitch audience. Yeah, go follow us on Twitch. We're not complaining. We're just adjusting based on what we're saying. Anyways, now that we're live everywhere, do we just start the news? Can we clap for the first news?
Yes. It's fascinating. It's juicy.
First
news. Okay. Israeli Jewish Antifa hacks Triple K website and doxes members. So guys, when I'm talking about Triple K, I'm talking about a certain group of people that wear pointy white hats, okay? But we don't use certain words here because of the YouTube algorithm. So I'm going to be saying Triple K. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the screen. Okay. A group of Israeli anti-fascists recently hacked a Triple K website, had to catch myself, and exposed the identities of several of its members. The hackers gave an exclusive statement to the Jerusalem Post identifying themselves as Halalim al-Munin, Hebrew for anonymous soldiers. Antifa
Ha'alim Amonim. So I is E in Hebrew, just like in Arabic.
Thank you. Okay, so Antifa hacked into the Patriotic Brigade of Knights website, an institution aligned with the notorious Triple K white... Oh, shoot. There's so many sensitive words here. Low melanated
supremacists. Yeah, there you go.
Low melanated supremacists. The software hackers exposed the personal information of the Triple K branch members in Texas. The clan331.com website ordinarily displayed common representations of low melanated supremacy and a link to join the organization. However, Antifa hackers transformed it significantly. The website URL has now been changed to jewishantifa.com. Quote, our objective is to strike terror into the hearts of the enemies of humanity, Antifa stated exclusively to the Jerusalem Post. So yeah, and there's a lot more to get into here, but that's just the broad view.
I mean, okay, so isn't this... I don't know how to feel about this. Isn't like doxing the members kind of illegal, and also like the members doxing them? Like, don't they live with their families and their children, and now you're putting them at risk as well? Like, I don't know. This sounds cool and all if you don't think about it, but then if you think about it, it sounds irresponsible. I don't know. How do I feel about this? Rivka.
Yeah, I am not in favor of exposing people's personal information like addresses and things like that, because that is a potential to have innocent people harmed, to have people that have nothing to do with it. And then also it's sort of a passive aggressive incitement to violence. And so I'm not at all in favor of doing that. I do think it's hilarious that they got into this just in a sort of, badass way. Oop, bad donkey starts with an A way.
No, I think you can say that. I don't even know anymore.
I don't know what the rules are.
So it seems like that is funny, especially because they had the Shabbat Shalom up on the page, which was funny. And then they made this statement saying that neo and bad German N people from World War II and other low melanated supremacist groups believe and articulate this theory that Jewish people have this sort of all-seeing eye, we control everything. So they're making fun of that and using it against them, and they even said that we want to exploit their fantasies to make them a reality. And at one point it says, there is nowhere that is beyond our reach. We will find you. So they're saying expose them, which like I said, I don't agree with, but I think it's a little bit funny that they're using this sort of control of everything, trope as a way of poking them in the eye a little bit. It's funny.
I'll read.
It's very trollish.
I'll read the direct quote. Again, guys, I will be using coded language. Okay. Neo-Yazis and other low melanated supremacist groups believe that Jews have an all-seeing eye. Our desire is to make their fantasies a reality and exploit their conspiracies as a form of psychological warfare. We want them to know that wherever they are in the world, we will find them and we will expose them. We will destroy their lives and we will bathe in their tears and mock at the gnashing of their teeth. There is nowhere that is beyond our reach. End quote.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool and badass. And this is also very funny. Is it possible to enjoy the humor and how badass it is while also not condoning it? Can you do both at the same time? Or is that the contradiction?
That's
Rivka,
a good question.
Here, let me unmute my phone. Yeah, Rivka, go on.
Oh, you're still muted.
Rivka, you're still muted.
So, third try. I think absolutely you can do both at the same time. You can marvel at the, badassery, the trollish, the funny elements in it that are kind of brutal, like dark humor-ish. But at the same time, you can say, I think it's funny. And some of the points they're making about, using their conspiracy theories against them are interesting and maybe could be used in a different way instead of, just hacking in sort of makes that point without having to put them potentially in harm's way, especially their children or their spouses, or, there was a story from several years ago. I don't remember exactly which group, but doxed someone and people went to this person's house and beat the person who was at the house to hospitalization. And it turned out it wasn't the guy they were looking for. It was his brother feeding the dog. Like, it was at his brother's house. So not that I'm saying, as long as you can make sure you find the right people, it's okay. No, it's just this very, in my mind, passive aggressive incitement to violence, which is very typical of the Antifa methodology.
Yeah.
So they want to egg it on. They want to incite it. They want other people to do the dirty work of, the gnashing of teeth and the bloody, hand-to-hand combat. But they're behind the scenes, with their hand up the puppet's back, or, whispering in their ear, come on, go ahead, fight.
Yeah, well, one thing that was interesting about this site is that they exposed a lot of the criminal records of the people involved with this chapter, which includes a lot of child abuse of a sexual nature. And it includes like a whole page about how they basically say that the KKK is a satanic P-file cult, and that that P-files were among the first Yahtzees, and so they also like draw this connection between.
Wait, you're using coded language again?
Yes.
Oh my god, YouTube! Look what you're making us do.
Yes, I'm sorry if I'm not making any sense, you guys. So.
I don't know that there was a lot of deviance. I'm sure I've read a lot about that and drug use amongst the access powers,
Mm-hmm.
but and particularly that the N word from Germany. That one.
Yahtzees.
I always forget it. Yahtzees. There was some of that, but I don't know that that's a direct correlation. And then the whole thing about exposing the records brings up an interesting, because those are probably public domain to know people who are on the registered offenders list and things like that. So can you say, we found, 22 people with criminal records, many of which were maltreatment of children in this organization? And then without creating this, sort of laissez-faire vigilantism, maybe, or something like that. I think that's a more legitimate criticism because it has actual harm and it's public record. So you're not doing anything that someone who wanted to work a little bit could find it, especially if you could. You don't even have to say their names, but just people to know that there are convicted P-files in a particular organization seems like a legitimate criticism or a legitimate point to make.
Okay, I have a question. Wouldn't this strategy backfire? Wouldn't this the KKK people are so irrelevant compared to, again, I'm not saying far-right groups are irrelevant. There are many far-right groups that are becoming more relevant and they're a danger. And just to be clear, far-right groups cause a lot more, have been responsible for a lot more violence, at least in Western countries, than Antifa or anything like that, at least based on the reports. But the KKK organization itself is not one of the ones that is very relevant. I mean, they are...
According to this website, the SPLC says that this branch, which is the Patriotic Brigade of Knights of the KKK, the SPLC classifies it as an active group. It's the fastest growing in the KKK group in the U.S. that has now created branches in 4 states.
Okay, never mind then. I was wrong.
Well,
okay,
I think you are kind of right to some degree. They did cause a lot of violence and create a lot of issues, in the previous decade or century, rather. I'm sorry. And definitely in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. So, and actually some of the laws that we have on the books about not covering your face on public highways came from prosecutions in North Carolina in the 30s of the KKK people. However, you are right that they are less of perhaps active force now, but I think the history that they have behind them and sort of I hate to use this word, but relevance in people's minds, or some sort of position of priority in terms of bringing these issues to the forefront. So they're handing the baton. It's like a gateway drug to some of these other organizations. And also people who aren't necessarily familiar, but are looking to get into that world or learn more, that has name recognition. So they will go there and then move on to more radical groups or learn more about it. So I think that they are still quite relevant.
Right. But I was trying to make a point. If please, Susanna. Because all right, I was trying to get at maybe highlighting their website is not a good idea, because they're gonna get their website back, and guess what? Now you advertise their whole website to the whole world, including a whole bunch of other far-right groups that they're like, oh, thank you so much for bringing attention to this group that we didn't know that we could go and support. What do you think?
I don't know if they are going to get it back. It's been a while since this first happened, and it's still...
I'm just saying that any attention to the group would be...
That's a double-edged sword that I think you run into if they do any kind of action, that it could have, an unintended consequence of giving publicity to whomever you're, directing your protest or whatever against, and then they could reap the rewards of that. Yeah, I think that that's always a potential. But from my perspective, I would, sans the doxing, rather, I would much rather know who these people are, where they are, what they're saying, in terms of, when I mean who, like as an organization, than not know where they are. And then when people talk about, right-wing neo-Yahtzee violence and things like that, they're going to say, well, where, what? I never see any of those. I've never heard of it. It's not on the internet, or, you know what I mean? That's from my perspective.
Right. But I'm just saying that sometimes things that seem cool might actually end up making a group. I mean, we have this experience. People who attack us. Every time we got attacked by people who wanted to shut us down, everything worked out in our favor. Like, it was fantastic, right?
We just get stronger.
No, I know. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's true. Like every time Atheist Republic managed to level up, like, we hit a plateau and we weren't growing, and we're just maintaining what we were at. Every time we went to the next level is when somebody decided that they don't like us and they want to remove us, and we just like they're the best. They ended up being the best marketing for us, right? So I'm just saying, based on our personal experience, these tactics usually backfire and help the group that you're trying to attack.
Yeah, they definitely can. That can definitely have the unintended consequence that the attackers were hoping not to have happen.
Well, the thing is, I haven't found, the key when that happens is you have to spring up somewhere else, right? To be able to actually glean the benefit of that, negative publicity that turns into free marketing. I haven't been able to find where they have sprung up in replacement. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, be mindful of that. Anyways, we do need to go to the next news. Did you want to add anything? No? Okay.
No, there were some really wild comments on the Facebook page for this news, but
I bet there were.
Oh yeah, like what?
People started calling us Zionists for some reason and asking us to explain ourselves, and I was like, What?
Wait, but I'm technically I based on some definitions of Zionism. I am a Zionist. So I don't know.
Myself as well. I don't know why people insist on it being a pejorative.
Yeah,
It was pretty funny though. Like, and then there was someone in the comment like who's like, I like formally ask Atheist Republic to explain itself, and I was like, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
it was Israel adjacent, and it has the flag and the thing, so people just their knee jerk, anti-Israel stance for just for existing.
Yeah. Oh, just to be clear, like Antifa Israeli group is probably not a Zionist. Like a lot of people are like, oh, that's a contradiction. Or like, I would assume that these Antifa group, even though they're Israeli, they're based on Antifa philosophy, they're anti-Zionist.
Who knows?
Right.
It's true, but who knows? Like, sometimes people are not consistent in their adoption of what they claim are their deeply held beliefs.
That's my best guess. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people assume Israeli means that you're cool with Zionism and everything. They don't understand that. I mean, I've been to Israel. Let me just finish this out.
No.
Among two Israelis, you have like 3 different opinions, right? So this idea, like, how could you have Antifa Israelis? Like, well, it's possible that they're not down with Zionism, even though they're Israeli. I think like that blows people's minds that, oh, if you're Israeli, you must be pro-Zionism. Like,
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, I was an American Antifa who's anti-America.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's not
the nation you're from.
It's not a difficult, circle to square or whatever. But this Mossad tweet. But yeah, I think that your point really shows people's lack of understanding, about what it maybe means to be a member of this group or that group, and that also lack of understanding of the multicultural, very wide swath of different belief sets and political views in Israel. People really don't investigate it further than that. And also, that's another example of living in a country that gives you more rights to express yourself, that you could be from a country and holding up signs actively hating it. Mm-hmm. And you're,
yeah.
And that's something that's seen as normal in your society.
Well, yeah, you just have to tell them that, just compare it to your country and maybe you'll understand. Like, a lot of people think like, oh, if you're somebody from Iran, that means you understand Iranian politics inside and out, and all your knowledge is authentic. Everything, your opinions are authentic because you're from there.
Well, yours is.
Yeah, mine, I'm different though. But
Ahmed down at the gas station told me all about everything that's going on in Iran.
Yeah. Like, well, he's from Iran, so he must be right. But like, and just like, if you're American, for example, just think of the average American. Do you trust all their opinions about U.S. politics just because they're American? Anyways, we need to go to the next news. Can we clap for the next news? Nobody died.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna clap. Next news.
Same-sex attraction is a disease, says UK Islamic charity.
Wow.
In the United Kingdom, aka the UK, a newly registered Muslim charity is under review by the Charity Commission for its website's anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. The charity, the Ghamidi Center of Islamic Communication, publishes a form of hate speech on their website, such as lectures and sermons suggesting that homosexuality is a disease that needs to be cured. The Ghamidi Center hosts videos and audio clips highlighting speakers who discuss, quote, the right to beat wives and project their beliefs that gay people are more inclined to be killers. The Ghamidi Center is awarded public benefits with charitable status and is enabled to claim taxpayer-funded gift aid on donations and tax relief. The National Secular Society, also known as the NSS, contacted the Charity Commission for the UK regarding the Ghamidi Center of Islamic Communications charity status. So this has caused quite a little bit of controversy, and I'm very thankful for the National Secular Society in the UK, which seems to be, based on my bit of familiarity with them, like the closest thing the UK has to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So if you're in the UK, go check out the National Secular Society. So it was only registered as a charity in December. So this is very recent. And they have very misogynistic and homophobic things just like widely available on their website. And the thing, but what's the most problematic about this is that they are able to get taxpayer money. And so in the National Secular Society, okay, so like I said, the National Secular Society took it upon themselves to contact the Charity Commission and ask them specifically about the status of this group, because this was on their radar. In response, the Director of Investigations within the Charity Commission stated, quote, "Trustees carry ultimate responsibility for the operation and activities of a charity, including for the content of its website and social media. Trustees are responsible for putting in place appropriate systems of control to ensure that material posted on their website is suitable and appropriate for charity." So one of the things that was available on their website, for example, was a lecture given by the Islamic scholar Khalid Zahir. He claims homosexuality, quote, "cannot be allowed because there are people who lose their senses and are inclined to killing others." He added that we are not going to allow killing because of the reason that there is someone who has a problem in his mind or is mentally ill. They also have lectures titled "The Right to Be Wives," which condones violence against women and says it is lawful for a husband to punish his wife if she challenges his authority, provided it not leave any sign of a wound on her. So then the NSS, the National Secular Society, contacted this charity about what they found on their website. And in response, the charity removed the video versions of the lecture, but they left the audio versions available online. And in terms of what they say for themselves, the Ghamidi Center states its charitable objective as, quote, "the advancement of the religion of Islam and for the benefit of the public primarily, but not exclusively, through the provision of online information, learning, and study." And in response to the objections raised by the NSS, the Charity Commission responded saying that it is currently examining the concerns raised and will assess the information provided to determine what regulatory action, if any, is required. And then what I thought was very telling was a trustee for the Ghamidi Center sent an email to the NSS agreeing that some of the content does not seem to be compatible with their charitable status. And then they continued, quote, "We believe in freedom of expression and the right to freedom of religion, and beliefs are protected by the Human Rights Act. We all enjoy this freedom in a democratic society."
I have a comment about that,
okay,
but go ahead. I was going to say, I'll wait.
All right. I was gonna say everybody should just grab popcorns when it comes to the LGBT versus the left in the UK. This is going to be a battle for years to come, and it's going to be so interesting because for so many years, like a lot of leftists were confused about they couldn't understand the difference between protecting minority rights and making excuses for horrible ideologies like Islam. Like apparently they can't tell the difference. Like you could protect the minorities, protect the people from bigotry without actually endorsing their crappy ideas. Like apparently, so they did both for some reason, for some idiotic reason, right? Even though the values that they were endorsing was against everything that the left holds as sacred. And one of the most sacred values in the left, and rightfully so, is LGBT rights, which is non-negotiable for leftists. And for most of mainstream Islam, actually all of mainstream Islam, being anti-LGBT is also non-negotiable. So this is two non-negotiable positions between mainstream Islam and the left, and
Buckle up, kids.
Buckle up, because the because the honeymoon is over. Like this was a marriage between Islam and the left. This is where you're gonna see the divide, and it's going to be so interesting to see more and more leftists coming to the realization that this is not something that they could endorse. And I want this to escalate, because this is something that needs to backfire on the people who endorse these crappy ideologies. And I do want more activists, more secular activists in the UK and anywhere else to go pressure every single mosque and every single Islamic charity to give an opinion about what their position is on LGBT, to make it official, to say, like, do you support LGBT rights or not? And if they are silent about it, to expose them, at least to their own community, that, look, you guys are anti-LGBT, but your charity, they're cowards. They're not even making it public. They're not this is like a lose-lose situation for these Islamic charities, which is fantastic. If they're public about it, they lose, and if they're not public about it, they have to be exposed as cowards who are not going to take a position, even if they think it's right, to their own community. Okay, so go and pressure every single one of these. Ask every single imam, every single Islamic cleric or whatever official, what is their position on LGBT, to make a public statement. Do they, and don't let them dance around it. Yes or no, do they support LGBT rights or not? Anyways, Rivka.
So yeah, I think that your points are, I think you're right about that, and it's good. And it may be like, the breaking point here in the little sordid love affair. But I do think that this imam is counting on them, still being that into Islam, because he did this very brilliant political move here where he agreed with their premise in order to counter it. He said, oh yeah, some of the stuff might be against the charity, but we live in a multicultural society with freedom and the ability to believe what we want to believe. So basically what he's saying is he's got some catchphrases in there to ding ding the sympathometer. And then he's also trying to play up the fact that despite them violating potentially the rules and talking about encouraging people to do things that are actual crimes in the country they live in. It's one thing to have a theoretical conversation, but when you say, here's how you beat your wife and it's okay, that is a crime in England. So they're encouraging illegal acts, but he's basically telling people, well, but you can't say anything about that because we're in this special category.
We have religious privilege,
deeply held beliefs, religious privilege, and then, the whole cultural relativistic argument. And then again, the same argument about, I'm going to bring up Islamophobia. In the West, that's how you shame people into being quiet, is by insinuating that they're racist or they're bigots. So he doesn't come right out and say this, but he does a really good job of giving you this sort of underhanded, so like, well, we're free to do this because of our religious freedom, aka privilege, and our identity in terms of a cultural relativistic worldview. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like they do have the freedom to believe that. That doesn't mean that they have to receive money from taxpayers of the United Kingdom. That's not something. That's not something they're owed.
And it's not, if they don't receive taxpayer funding, then that is in no way stopping them from believing what they want to believe and practicing their religion, or saying that they believe these things and talking about it.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So can we go to the next news?
Yes, we can.
All right. Let me bring it up. Give me a second. Is it the Rihanna one?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Hold on. Give me a second. All right. Can we clap?
Yes.
Next news.
Next news, because there's nothing I love more than Hindutva butthurt. Okay. So
they got a beef with Rihanna.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So Rihanna's tweet about farmers' protest sparks backlash. And backlash is an understatement. Okay. Rihanna, one of the top-selling musical artists of all times, poured out her support for the farmers protesting on the borders of India's capital, New Delhi. On January 26th, during a tractor rally protest organized by the farmers, the protesters clashed with police in many parts of the nation's capital, New Delhi, as they broke down barriers to enter the capital. Government authorities shut down the internet in many of the surrounding Haryana districts, and which is state neighboring outside the border of New Delhi. Rihanna utilized Twitter to draw attention to a CNN story about the farmers' plight. In her tweet, she asked why more people weren't talking about this government action. With over 241,000 tweets, which is probably a lot more since, Rihanna was trending at #1 in India on Twitter. The Indian Bollywood actress Kangana Ranaut, who supports the new farm laws, used Twitter to call out Rihanna. Quote, "No one is talking about it because they are not farmers. They are terrorists." Guys, I'm using coded language. They are terrorists who are trying to divide India so that China can take over our vulnerable, broken nation and make it a Chinese colony, much like the USA. Sit down, you fool. We are not selling our nation like you dummies, the actress tweeted.
Wow.
So
this is the same celebrity that came after me, by the way.
Kangana Ranaut, yes.
Yeah.
She has like 3 million followers on Twitter.
This is like food fight level stuff, though. Like she's like slinging, and I find it so ridiculous that she's then in this conspiracy theory, and then also insults her country because Hindutvas get very upset about that. But I have a feeling that she miscalculated on Rihanna's sense of outrage.
But let's cover the basics first. So the whole so the protest. A lot of people are going to be asking, what are the protests? Farmers' protest is about? What are they protesting? The law that the Modi's government is introducing. It's a bit complicated about how it affects the farmers. All you need to know is that the farmers should have a right to protest, whether you think this law was good or not. They should have the right to be able to come and complain about it. And the government has been trying to silence them, shut them down, remove internet, police brutality, and all of that is involved here. Okay. And also part of that is information warfare. There's a lot of conspiracy theories being spread around about these farmers, a lot of them being, again, coded language, terrorist. I hope you know what that means. A lot of them being funded by organizations outside of India, supporting separatist movement to divide India. What is it called? The Khalistanis, right?
Well,
Which is
that's specifically like a Sikh separatist
yes,
nationalist movement.
Some of that
religiously flavored as well.
Yeah, so the accusation is that Canada specifically is funding this Khalistani groups to use the farmers' protest as a way to support separatist movements. And so Rihanna was not the only celebrity that came and tweeted in support of the farmers. It was also Mia Khalifa and also Greta Thunberg, right? Is that how you say it?
Thunberg?
Thunberg. Is that how you say it? Okay, never mind.
Honestly,
but so what happened is that Greta, she tweeted some toolkit like about how she was supposed to post a tweet instead of the tweet itself. So a lot of people saw the toolkit and they're like, oh my God, this proves the conspiracies and stuff like that. So we're going to have an entire stream about that at some point, because this is basically a war between Hindutva in India and the Sikhs in Canada, apparently what they're saying, and celebrities are involved. So we have two different religions, and we have the world's largest protest, workers protest, some people say in history. And we have two countries involved, Canada and India. We have two religions involved, Hinduism and Sikhism. We have celebrities involved, and we have workers' rights. This is like so many moves.
It's really complicated.
It's the world's greatest protest happening. If we have the left versus the right, we have two religions against each other. We have two governments against each other. We have conspiracies, and we have Mia Khalifa all of a sudden in the middle of this. So this is so juicy.
Learned Mia Khalifa is actually an ex-Catholic. Like, my people, look at us thrive. So,
I was going to say everything that Armin said, it almost has like a Hollywood epic feel to it. It's got every big bang, celebrities, governments, workers, farmers, conspiracy theories, it's very blockbuster.
Yeah, this story is so juicy. I don't know why it's not getting more attention outside of India.
Well, it is. Maybe it's just because India has taken up my life right now, but I feel like since September, I feel like it is getting a lot of attention, more attention. But what I wanted to highlight with this Rihanna situation was the backlash she faced from the Indian right was so vitriolic. It was so racist. There were people posting photos of when she was assaulted and domestically abused by Chris Brown in 2009, posting like, oh, Chris, now I understand why you beat the crap out of her. Encouraging like, oh, you should go back and do it more, encouraging domestic violence, of course, encouraging that she be sexually assaulted. Oh, and Susanna is saying Rihanna was called Kali, which is a racist jibe at dark people, because it means dark, or it means black, by the Hindu Tavis. Terms like Kalibili, Kali, Kaluti. I probably shouldn't even say that. I don't even know what I'm saying. Yeah, and then Koshnik is saying it is a classic Hindutva tactic to turn everything into a communal issue, which is so true. I am convinced that communal harmony, or like that phrase that I see everywhere, or preventing communal disharmony, is like the Hindutva or Indian version of like spreading corruption in the land. it's like, oh, for the sake of preserving this thing, like we'll excuse any poor way that we treat you or any desecration of your civil liberties. And Luke in all caps is saying, coming this summer, the largest protest in history, a clash of nations, two fates at war, and Mia Khalifa.
Just to be clear, I didn't say it's the largest protest in history. I said some people are saying it's the largest protest in history. I was very clear about saying some people are saying. I have no idea if it's true or not. Okay, just listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying there has been this claim. Okay, this might be completely BS. I have no idea. Okay.
Well, in terms of that claim, it is in specific regard to I believe it was a 1-day strike. So that 1-day strike had participation, I believe, around 240 million.
Wow.
So
it's not actually a claim that that may not have validity. I mean, there's 1 billion people in India.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
I just say I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know.
So if we're talking about that specific day, then I think you can make that claim. In terms of because the farmers' protest has been going on for months now. I don't know about the entirety of the protest, but I think for that one specific action,
mostly in Punjab, right?
Where people were participating in that strike, or where the protest is happening. There's a lot of action around Delhi, and that's where some of the most authoritarian actions are being taken. A friend in India sent me a photo of the barricades that the police are making in the highways, and it almost looks like the demilitarized zone in North Korea. I was like, holy crap.
So here's the thing. Here's how conspiracies work. So Darwinian atheist is correct. He or she is saying it became a communal issue when the Sikh, I keep saying Sikh because it's KH, it's Sikh. Sikh flag was planted on the Red Fort. Yeah, that's when it happened. But this is what people, so usually conspiracies are based on some truth, but exaggerated, right? So you can have an entire legitimate protest of people demanding for some accountability by the government, and you get one guy or I don't know, a couple of people just raising one flag, a Sikh flag, over a temple, and then the entire Hindutva, BJP, Modi supporting media is like, look, this entire movement is a separatist Khalistani, like these are not farmers, they're not even real farmers, they're actors. By the way, I'm not making this up, they are making that claim, like these are all paid, like millions and millions of paid actors that are actually a separatist group trying to divide the country. Yeah, and then guess what? Is protest this large? If you have a Khalistani separatist movement, of course they're gonna, like, some of them are gonna support the farmers because it's anti-government. But they try to use that as a way to dismiss the entire movement and the protest. But go on, Susanna.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I think of it like how when the Trumpers stormed the Capitol on January 6th, there was footage of people taking down the U.S. flag and putting up a Trump flag in its stead. And I know a lot of people, including one of my favorites, Sarah Hayter, saying this is traitors, like this is treasonous, like this shows that you are not about America, you're partisan. So I liken it to that situation. Like I would probably feel similarly, like you're not actually about our country, you're about like your singular movement. So I understand that, but what you're saying is that because a few people did that does not color the entire movement. And in fact, I've seen footage of a lot of the farmers standing right outside and they're clearly Sikh men standing right outside the Red Fort while that was happening, screaming at the people who are putting that flag up, saying, no, take that down. That's not what we're here for. You're trying to co-opt what we're doing. Like, we're here for India. Like, they're screaming at these guys, like, you don't represent us. What the hell are you doing? So that's that specific action at the Red Fort, I don't think is reflective of the entire movement. But I understand how inflammatory that can be in general and how that would be for a lot of people. But in response to some of the activity at Twitter, on Twitter, the government actually wholesale blocked full hashtags being used on Twitter. Now, the hashtag being used was hashtag farmers genocide. And this has become an incredibly controversial issue in India about how, because there's basically what is colloquially known as secret blocking orders that the government can use. Usually if the government blocks their website, guys, I've been having to study my Indian law recently. There's a record of an order, and you can file a right to information request, and you can get an RTI, and you'll have to see that order. Except there's a clause in the law that if it is a matter of national security or sovereignty, then the government can keep that confidential and they don't have to disclose it. Therefore, it becomes a secret blocking order. So the government basically used one of these to block an entire hashtag, which many people are viewing as unconstitutional because hashtags are used to criticize that hashtag, right? The hashtag isn't a statement. People can be using that hashtag just to loop into the conversation about this, so-called alleged farmer genocide and say, actually, I disagree. I don't think this is true. Here's my information to counter that claim, So that's an ongoing, evolving issue in India as well, because Twitter is now pushing back against some of the government actions that they're trying to impose within the platform, and it is now possible that they could face criminal prosecution because of it. But that issue is evolving, and it kind of goes back and forth. But I thought it was worth mentioning.
It's amazing how much you know about this, Susie.
I watch what's her name, Faye D'Souza. She's a great independent journalist. Yeah.
Shout out to her.
Yeah.
All right. Check this. Read this comment.
Goddess Katie is saying, Susanna is right. The strike back in November saw a participation of 250 million people across India, which officially makes it the largest protest in history.
Okay.
And then Darwinian Atheist saying, I agree, this isn't a separatist movement. It was just one schmuck who planted the flag.
Also, Darwinian Atheist is saying?
Untrue. There are 250 million farmers in India, so the strike claimed to include all the farmers.
Well, I mean, it's possible that some people that were in the strike were supporting the farmers who are not farmers.
That's the way that I read that news. It was people doing it in solidarity with the farmers.
Yeah. So this, we don't know, by the way. This is we're just reading our community, our live chat, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And people from India, okay? But again, just because they're from India, that doesn't you can see that they disagree with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You want to read this one? Oh no, I don't know.
I don't know what that's.
I don't know what that means. Did we mention that a lot of the protests now involve a lot of the there's a counter protest which involves the burning of Rihanna's and Mia Khalifa's.
Speaking of, I wish I could find this meme. I think this is.
Wait, can I finish that though? Greta Thunberg. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right. Mia Khalifa and Rihanna's images are being burned in India because of their tweets supporting the farmers. But go on.
And Kamala Harris's niece spoke out against it, and so I think what's her name? I think it's like Nima Harris. Something like that. So she was also, her effigy was also being burned. And she was on Twitter talking about how weird it is to see like extremists burn her image, back in like her ancestral land. But so there was this, I think it's called Humans of Casteism on Facebook. So there's this meme page and it was showing the pictures of these like Hindufa men burning the images of these women. And the caption was something along the lines of like, well, burning women, like true to Hindu history, here we are burning women. And I was like, oh my
god, ouch.
Keeping it spicy this morning, but true. So
hashtag not all Hindus, hashtag this was back in history, it doesn't happen right now, hashtag all of that.
Yes, it is illegal now, but that did definitely happen. So yeah, this will be an ongoing story. I think Armin will be covering this a lot.
Yeah,
now,
we're gonna.
the actual substance of these laws that people are proposing is something that I need to understand better. Just putting that out there. The economics of this is quite complicated. And I still need to decide, how I feel about the laws itself. I know that I don't like a lot of the actions the government is taking in response to people protesting.
It doesn't. I mean, for our purposes, it doesn't really matter that much whether the law is good or not. What matters to us is that the farmers who don't like it should be able to protest it without the government silencing them.
Exactly.
Right. Anyways, okay. Rivka, did you want to add anything before we go to the next news? No, you're good. All right, let me bring up the next news. And are we able to hold on? Let me delete this. Clap for this next news.
No. Well, I mean, they're suing the people that did the bad
Okay,
thing.
yeah, it's a bad. The original news is bad, but this is a good response to the bad news. So it's dark, but I'm gonna clap.
Yes.
Next news.
Victims sue Catholic Church after proving nuns sold them as sex slaves. Recent court documents reveal 2 decades of sexual abuse of orphaned children by the very institution charged with their protection. The plaintiffs, survivors of the horrific sexual abuse at the Covenant in Speyer, Germany, described how 175 orphans, mostly boys ranging from the age of 17 to 14, were pimped out by the nuns who perverted businessmen and clergymen. Nuns rented out the boys from boarding houses to pedophiles at the order of the Sister of the Divine Redeemer during the 1960s and 1970s.
We say pedophiles because YouTube is sensitive about the actual word. But go ahead.
Yes. The nuns, driven by their greed for compensation, initially supplied children to pedophile priests in the Archdiocese of Cologne, Germany. They also sought out wealthy businessmen to help line their pockets. Deutsche Welle, or just DW News, was the first to report the lawsuit against the Catholic establishment. The shocking 560-page investigative report was finalized in January 2021. The main abusers are now deceased, and many victims have settled with the church for financial compensation, which has prohibited them from joining the lawsuit.
Wow. What are the chances for them succeeding with this lawsuit?
Well, I mean, I'm going to guess that maybe they will be settled out of court. But I don't know how things go in Germany. I know how that's happened frequently in the US. They just, are given financial compensation outside of the court. But it's brutal.
Right. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of people might wonder. If a Christian, usually the Christian respond to this, that this has nothing to do with Christianity. You guys are just taking advantage of some evil people who happen to be Christian as a way for you to highlight, to make a point, and your point is not valid because just because Christians do evil things, that doesn't mean Jesus is not God and Christianity is not it's not true or it's not good. But however, that's all wrong, because this has a lot to do with Christianity. There's many, not just Christianity, but religion as a whole is responsible for actions like this in many different ways. Sometimes it's directly, responsible for evil actions like this, because you can find it in the scripture, sometimes indirectly. If it's not in the scripture, that doesn't mean that the religion is blameless. Religion does, for example, both Islam and Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism and other religions give undeserved authority to people and create a undeserved sense of trust to parents, to other people who portray people that have high authority in religious institution as people that are deserved to be trusted, as high standing when it comes to their moral worth, and people that have with no background checks and no other skills or credentials when it comes to handling children, or that any other way of any other good way of being able to display that you are to be trusted with children. Like in the secular world, people who are we trust with children go through a lot more tests and background checks. But in the religious communities, the fact that they are religious people are usually used as a sign that these are people who could be trusted. So this undeserved sense of authority or morality gives parents especially a false sense of security with these people, which leads to these kind of situations. Again, this happens with other religions as well. That's one way religion is responsible. Another way religion is responsible is religions, especially Christianity in this instance, gives you a license to sin, because all sins are forgiven through Jesus, and it really doesn't matter what you do, as long as you believe in Jesus, your sins will be forgiven. So this does create a sense of immunity from punishment by people who are very religious, which that indirectly also results. So the scripture doesn't have to endorse this, even if the scripture considers this to be a sin. If you think your sins are forgiven, you feel like you have a license to sin, and then you're going to be forgiven. So that's another way that religion is responsible for actions like this. Susanna, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I just wanted to provide a little bit more background to the lawsuit itself. So it turns out that the case was actually decided back in May, but the documents were only released recently. Now, this was involving the case of one man in particular. His name is Karl Hock, and he's now 63 years old. And he led the lawsuit along with 15 victims, describing their abuse. He said that he would be literally dragged by nuns to the principal abuser, who was a vicar, Rudolf Motzenbacher, who was since died. So they would literally drag him to this guy's house. He still suffers from PTSD to this day. And if you want to learn more about some of the background of this case, go check it out on our website. Because I don't even know if I want to get into the details right now. But so one victim, Karl Hock, filed a court case seeking compensation from the Catholic Church and alleging more than 1,000 instances of abuse over the 10 years he lived in the now shuttered children's home. That he experienced. Like I said, the case was decided in May, but the documents have only recently been released. Hock was awarded $18,000 for his suffering. $18,000 for 10 years of childhood sexual abuse. Like, I can't even believe it. Where he was sold as a child to sex parties by nuns.
Really?
$18,000? Are you kidding me?
Really challenges the idea of the claim that you need religion to be moral. Rivka, did you want to
I think that, I think it also almost makes the point for us about giving undeserved authority and unwanted respect and, and trust to people whose only claim to this is that they're religious. Because look, not just did these nuns commit a horrible, heinous crime and do something to scar these children for life, but then there's the whole prospering from it financially, covering up from it, the sheer number of them, the sheer number of the incidents across an extended time period, all of that. I mean, that is heinous. And so if they're capable of this, just like any other person is capable of doing something terrible, then where is your immediate sense of, trust, and that these people are capable of adequately taking care of children? They're not.
Just to be clear, we're not making a positive claim here. We're just challenging a claim that is being made, right? We're not saying that religion makes you evil, right? What we're claiming is that what we're saying is that the claim that religion makes you moral is often challenged by events like this. And again, these are not anecdotal. If you want to go do some research, look at statistics, these kind of activity is disproportionately more rampant in religious communities than non-religious ones. So there's that. And one thing else I just wanted to highlight is that if this was any other, so putting the morality, the moral discussion aside, talking about legally also, another way religion becomes very relevant here is the religious privilege that you get when it comes to the consequences to these kinds of action. If this was any other organization, it would have been shut down ages ago. If this was like a private corporation, a non-religious educational facility, a kindergarten, if it would have, the heads of this organization would have been taken away in handcuffs. Everything, like the police would be in, there would be helicopters, people would be like taking every single document, hard drive, everything would be taken away for investigations without asking for any permission. There would be many court cases, like the level, the difference would be night and day, right? And this is a form of religious privilege that you get if you do it, the crimes that most organizations and people can get away with in a non-religious environment. You get one extra layer of security when it comes to if you have that religious stamp on it. Anyways, that was my last comment. Do you guys want to add anything? All right.
I mean, I just think that the amount of compensation is woefully inadequate, and I want to highlight the fact that many of the other victims couldn't join this lawsuit because they killed themselves, and I'm just really at a loss for words.
And from my perspective too, it's so reprehensible of a crime, but yet these people were endowed with this trust and thought of as good people simply because they were claimed to be religious, that gave them this easy access and continuous access to victims. So it's not just it happened, they were discovered. No, this had been going on. There had to be, a sense of feeling betrayed as kids, that you are continually being fed to the lion day after day after day.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think that every single person that donates to the Catholic Church is complicit?
If they're not complicit with the sexual abuse, they're definitely complicit with the sheer immorality of the Catholic organization and its charities in many other ways.
But on some level, they may also be even unknowingly complicit in the issues with the sexual abuse, because a lot of that money has been going to legal defense and, propaganda to shield themselves from any actual accountability.
Yeah, I personally think they are complicit. And the excuse of "I didn't know where this money is going" is unacceptable. I mean, you're donating money to an organization and you're not even checking where it's going, and you are actively funding the protection of child abusers. So every single person, I think even calling yourself a Catholic, it makes you complicit, because you're giving authority and legitimacy to this organization. The Catholic Church is basically a child molesting organization with a side of Jesus right now. But anyway, Susanna.
Yeah, it's like a 400-year-old pedophile cult. 600-year-old.
We don't use that.
P-file
too
cult.
late. It's too late now, but it's okay. Yeah, but I use child molesting instead of the P word because that's actually even worse. But Susanna, you want do you guys want to add anything? Any of you? Cool. All right. So, can I clap for the? Oh, by the way, before we go to the next, Rivka, do you mind lowering your camera a little bit? The camera is like cutting right now.
Now we see a beautiful face.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right. Yeah, I think we could clap. Next news.
Lawmakers in France debate a bill to rout out radical Islam. Last week, lawmakers in France debated a bill aiming to rout out only radical Islam. The laws hope to help prevent radical beliefs from seeping into the community that will affect the whole country with plans that undermine national values. The bill's sponsor, Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin, said that the laws are designed to stop, quote, an Islamist hostile takeover targeting Muslims. The bill submitted for debate is one facet of Macron's bid to do what previous lawmakers tried but failed to do, create a tailored, quote-unquote, Islam of France. The French Council of the Muslim Faith created a charter of principles for Islam of France, completed by Muslim leaders last month after much commotion among the Muslim alliances. One of the measures required are associations that receive state funding to sign a, quote, contract of republican commitment to ensure French values are honored.
Okay. I think this, again, skeptical. I think this is all good news. However, it can get out of hand, okay? We have to be vigilant. We have to be just because it does seems like it's moving in the right direction, that doesn't mean there's not going to be too much government overreach here and there that we shouldn't be calling out, okay? Overall, skeptically, I think this seems pretty good and in the best interest of Muslims in France themselves. What do you guys think?
I think it's bound to fail. An Islam of France? What?
What?
They just want to have a soft Islam brand on it, like Morocco claims that.
Okay. That language is horrible, but the whole movement against fighting radicalization and segregation, that part I think is good. That language is horrible. But go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, so there's different aspects to this, and we've talked about other aspects about this before in terms of the homeschooling, banning virginity tests. There was something else about like making sure that people trying to gain residency, basically something involving like preventing polygamous marriages. So those things we've talked about before, and I think those are more concrete, good, positive advances. But what I wanted to talk about with this is this idea of trying to take the Islamism, the politics, the political form of Islam out of Islam, trying to create an Islam of France.
No,
Like,
that part is the worst part.
Seems like horseshit. Like, yeah,
that part.
Yeah,
is the
I don't
worst.
agree with you. Though I feel like it's some sort of dance that they're trying to do to, kind of dance with this dragon every day. And I think it's also part of this thing, like the minister said, oh, this isn't a bill against Islam. It's against separatism or fundamentalism or something. And actually, I think he shouldn't use that language. I think they should say what it is. It's simply about combating separatism, rather than defining it by what it's not, which allows your opposition to seize on those things. And they are giving examples. Like, so there was this left criticism of it, that because they went through these revisions with a lot of the Islamic councils and etc., they removed a lot of language like Islamic separatism or terrorism or fundamentalism. So then they're forced to give these examples of how it's going to work. And these critics are saying, well, all you're talking about is Islam. So this is actually about Muslims, but you're not saying that. Which was what they asked was for it not to be said, or they're trying to dance around what they really mean. And so that, in that sense, I think that does create an atmosphere of not going to work. But
Right.
at the same time, I think that I agree with it too, in that, they are trying to do some good things, doctors, but they need to stop branding it. And I think he started to do it as saying it's protective of Muslims. And this is what I said when we talked about this once before, that this is actually for Muslims, and that's how they should brand it. This is to help them.
Yeah, I mean, the parts that I think Macron was explaining this, like when he was explaining the direction that they were going, it was a lot better than this, right? The part, I mean, this is the bill that includes all the plans, Susanna, correct me if I'm wrong, about fighting homeschooling and segregation. If those parts are fantastic, and those parts helps the Muslims. Again, so here's the part that is horrible. You trying to change an ideology, it's not the government's business to promote ideologies, right?
Exactly.
And that's the horrible part. You just the way you fight Islam, again, not radical Islam, okay, because Islam is radical on its own. The way Muslims reform, Islam doesn't reform. Islam is just Islam. Islam is whatever is in the Quran and the Hadith. That's not reformable. Muslims reform, though. Islam doesn't reform. Muslims reform. Muslims reform by being exposed to competing ideas to what's written in the Quran and the Hadith. Most Muslims are amazing people because they're not as influenced by the Quran and Hadith. And that whole process of desegregation is what helps you get better Muslim. Like, look at, for example, compare the Muslims in North America to what the situation that you have right now in the UK and France. The segregation and demonization, again, part of the process, it should be making Muslims feel that they're welcome in this country, that they're not an alien in France, that this is their country, And again, I tell everybody the best way to fight Islam is to befriend Muslims, right? And more Muslims in Canada and United States feel like Canada and United States is their country, because they feel as if they're the part of a society, which because they are. And most Muslims in United States and Canada, Islam is not, even if they're Muslim, Islam is not a major influence in their decision-making process or their lives. Okay. But the more you segregate Muslims and the more you demonize them, first of all, segregation means that they are not exposed to better ideas than Islam. And demonization means that they will Islam becomes an identity as a way to protect themselves against the demonization. And that's basically the greatest food for radicalism. So if the desegregation, so the parts of this move that, again, is going to be helpful is not letting parents brainwash their children. So that's great. Trying to make Muslims be more as part of society rather than having their own areas and stuff like that. That's going to be fantastic. The part that the government is getting, like, here's an approved version of Islam, that's horrible. That's counterproductive. Go on, Susanna.
I wanted to provide a little bit more background. So it's also interesting to see that the far right are saying, like, some people are saying that this is going too far, and then people like Marine Le Pen are saying it's not going far enough. So yeah, the proposed law is one aspect of the French president's bid to do what his predecessors tried and failed to do: create a made-to-measure Islam of France. Separately, the official conduit to the government, the French Council of the Muslim Faith, was pushed to create a charter of principles for Islam of France, completed last month after much wrangling among Muslim federations. Muslim leaders were keeping a low profile as the debate opened. In ways small and large, the bill seeks oversight in the functioning associations and mosques, including foreign financing, and the aims to plug up entry points for Islamist ideology in the lives of Muslims. Mohammed Moussaoui, head of the French Council of the Muslim Faith, said at the Parliamentary Commission hearing in January that the new oversight of the association bill is, quote, useful, necessary to fight those who want to instrumentalize associations to counter French values. However, he expressed concerns that officials would use this tool to bother associations and the good students following the rules. The head of the Foundation of Islam, a secular organization representing a progressive Islam, called the new proposed law, quote, unjust but necessary. While Muslims are not mentioned in the text, it singles out, quote, but one religion, but one category of the citizenry, said Galeb Benchechich in a phone interview. It is necessary because French society, the French nation, is traumatized by attacks and the reality of radical Islam. He added, while radicals are minority, it's the minorities that make up history. And so a lot of this, which I think we would all be behind, is also related to oversight of potential foreign financing, which I think, like,
that part is obvious. Yes.
I think that's sort of almost what's behind the idea of branding it as a French Islam or a Francofied Islam, as a way of making it distinguishable from and its own entity, not susceptible or against some of this foreign influence. But the thing that I thought was interesting, and I was going to bring this up pursuant to Armin's point about greater assimilation, is they make this comment about reducing the entry points for the opportunity of this fundamentalist style thinking to enter into Muslims' lives. And I think that, as well as foreign influence, I think that actually is part of an assimilation plan that could work in a way if you give people who are trying to assimilate new immigrants to the country, migrants, someplace else besides the mosque as a source of assistance, maybe French classes, maybe, learning the neighborhood, finding apartments. If you have some secular French entity that, or community center or organization that people can gather information from, that they can come together, that they can, form different organizations to help people, that's going to remove it from necessarily, hopefully, the mosque, and put it more on what does it mean to be French? How do you assimilate to this society? So I think that in part of the law is actually really helpful.
Okay, I just want to make in 3 points. First of all, if you are an anti-Islam if you're like against Islam and against other religions, and you just like look at the title and you like, just based on the title, you're like, yay, this is great, then you're not really you're not a skeptic, and you're not a critical thinker, and you're not doing it right. Okay, you're like, oh, I'm against Islam, France is saying something against Islam, I'm for it. If that's how much you dive into something, then you make a decision, then you're doing it wrong. But I'm not saying don't be for it. Maybe you are for it after you looked into it, so that's good. One other thing second thing I wanted to mention is that this might also be very helpful to Muslims in France, because a lot of French people are extremely angry, very angry, and justifiably so. But however, sometimes when you get angry, you might resort to solutions that are not justified or are an overcorrection. And part of that could include voting in or giving more power to far right parties in France, right? So one thing that Macron's administration might be helping Muslims with by doing all of this is taking the wind away from the far right parties in France, because if Macron doesn't do any of these things and the French people really demand it, then they're going to get the far right parties in power, and that's going to be horrible for Muslims in France. So that's one other. And the last thing I want to mention is that I wonder what you guys think about people who say, doesn't France already have laws against the influence of religions as a whole? Like, France is has some of the most aggressive secular, why do we have to have something specifically for Islam? Why can't you just enforce all the things that you already have? Has been working so effectively against France's war with the influence of the Catholic Church and everything has been won. They have defeated the Catholic Church. The secularism versus the Christianity. Secularism won. Christianity was defeated miserably, right? So why can't you just use the same rules and same laws and just maybe play with that, add to it, make it more, execute them? Why do we need something specific for Islam? What do you guys think?
Well, I think that you might need something specific for Islam because at this point it's got a lot of outside funding that is then reverberating in horrible terror attacks, people murdered, lack of assimilation of these communities, feeling of more allegiance, perhaps even to the foreign funders or to, Mecca or something than to their own country. Also, I think that the new influx of migrants is important, as I was talking about, giving them options to make them feel really welcome in France. If they're French secular options specifically aimed at groups that need this kind of programming, then yeah, it's different than the Catholic Church or the other laws about religion. But notably, some of them still are existing in this one. the ban on outward displays of religiosity by civil servants. And also this bill, I think, was introduced right on at the anniversary of when the famous separation of church and state was finalized, I think in 1905 or something. But so
And
yeah,
this-
I think
this
it
bill
does
is
maybe.
after Samuel Paty,
Mhm.
who is
Mhm.
this bill is named after Samuel
The
Paty.
Paty bill. So I think in that sense about, because you have a large influx of new immigrants, it does need to be specific, particularly if they're bringing with them an ideology that's detrimental or the outside funding that you're trying to target.
But even if the issue that they're trying to deal with right now is Islam, the language could still be something that deals with that, while it will cover any other religion as well. Like, so for example, if like, well, Islam is the outside funding is coming from Islamic groups, sure, but you could say like any outside funding of certain values that are against France.
I think they did try and do that by changing the language and making it seem more universal. But then when they go to give examples, the ones that they're giving are Islamic specific, because that's what the majority of the issue they're having.
Fine. It's fine to the examples to be Islam specific, but is the language of the bill Islam specific? Do we know that?
I don't know French.
No.
I don't know the French language. So
Yes, in some parts, yes, because that was what I was saying about the left-wing criticism of some of the bill is silly to me, because it went through all these machinations where they stripped out some stuff, or they and in the draft law, they don't say Islamism or separatism, because they don't want it to appear that they're targeting Muslims. But when they're asked to give examples, they mention Islamic separatism, Islamic terrorism. And so some of these left people are saying, aha, you're only mentioning Muslims. But you purposely made us change the bill so it wouldn't look like we're targeting Muslims. You wanted an example, and as soon as we give an example that's Muslim, that means we're bad and we're actually targeting Muslims, even though it could be another example in a year from now about another religious separate group. So it's like you can't win either way, whether you leave the language out or whether you don't.
One reason why it might be the government, the Macron's, everybody that is behind this bill wants to make it more anti-Islam than other religions, might be because of that's the most effective way of stopping the march on the far right, right? So if you're not signaling that, maybe that it wouldn't have that effect. So
it's a political calculation. So in the bill, though, they said an insidious but powerful communitarian infiltration is slowly gangrening the foundations of a society in some areas. This infiltration is, for the most part, of Islamic inspiration. Okay, so I don't think that you're doing anyone any disservice when you pretend what's happening isn't happening and you're afraid to name it, because that creates this void, and this void gets filled with fascists, whether it's Islamic fascists or it's right-wing fascists or it's left-wing fascists. So I think the language saying for the most part, because and some of the criticism was that they couldn't give concrete examples of the problem. And I don't think they need to. I think the separatists have shown them what the problem is. They're telling them, we don't believe in French values. We want to bring the republic down, and we will murder people in the streets to achieve that goal.
In cathedrals.
We will, behead someone in the street in broad daylight in 2021 or 2020. I don't even remember now because there's so many. But yet you have people saying, well, you're not giving us specific examples. This is a response to the specific things that the terrorist groups did. And they told us, when people tell you what they believe and they're willing to go out in the street with, you need to accept that's their stated goal.
Mhm.
All right, so we do need to move to that. Was thank you, Rivka. Your commentary is fantastic, by the way. So we do need to move to the next news.
Yes.
Can I clap for the next news?
Yes.
Next news.
Egypt overturns the sentence for TikTokers jailed for quote-unquote inciting debauchery. According to a state-run media, an Egyptian court overturned the sentences of 2 women who were previously convicted on charges of, quote, violating family values and inciting debauchery. As a result,
Fitna.
as a result of acquiring significant fame on TikTok. The women each received a 2-year prison sentence in July 2020. The courts also fined them 300,000 EGP, which is the Egyptian currency, which is roughly $20,000 USD each. Hanin Hossam and Mawada El-Adham, the 2 convicted young women, were aged 20 and 22 in July last year. Their only crime was becoming stars on social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram with animated videos of themselves dancing and singing. Though the court overturned the prison sentences for both women, it upheld the fine of about $19,000 for Miss El-Adham. So this was an interesting story that I wanted to cover, partly because I remember when they were first arrested back in July, but we were not able to actually cover it then at the time. So I wanted to at least give an update now. So part of what goes into this is that I thought some of the commentary in this article is interesting. With so many Egyptians enjoying the entertainment while stuck at home during the coronavirus lockdown, the women's popularity amassed millions of followers. However, compared with other social media posts in Egypt and the West, their videos seem relatively tame. For example, Miss Hossam usually wore a headscarf for recording. Still, the prosecutors accused the women of indecent exploits after focusing on a specific post made by Mrs. Hossam on Instagram. In that video, she encouraged her female followers to utilize social media's fame phenomenon by posting videos of themselves to Like, which is an app that pays creators based on how many views each video draws in. Prosecutors accused Ms. Hossam of instigating other young women to sell sex on Like and human trafficking activities. These women denied the charges against them. So a lot of this has to do with young women in the 21st century just doing what other young women around the world do. But that itself is in conflict with quote-unquote Egyptian family values. And because they amassed a great following because of this, and they were like, hey girls, like, I'm not, like, you can do this too. Like, they're essentially saying that these women are, like, promoting prostitution in a lot of the language that I read online.
That's part of the fitna of it, right? Because anything they're doing in the public sphere where it can be looked at by other men, or it can, they're not, getting permission, or they're not staying in purdah at home or quietly, or some of them are moving or dancing or doing things that they perceive to be, Western and haram or bad. All of that is boiled down to, it has to be fornication, sex, you're naked if you're not wearing cover, so that's this whole subtext underneath all of that, that anything a woman does in the public sphere is in some way related to sexuality. It's all everything is between her legs for the entire nation and religion and culture. It's all held, on their behavior. And that's what they're saying. Just even doing it is bad.
Yeah, so I mean, it is obviously fantastic news that their sentence was overturned. It's unfortunate that one of these women still has to pay like $19,000 for just becoming a TikTok star, essentially. And this one girl, al-Hathloul, she is apparently suffering from pretty severe depression because of this and the like literal oppression that she's faced. And I feel like that's really, it's just so unfortunate that because these women are doing what like I could do so easily here in America, like they are subject to such intense moral scrutiny for just picking up on a social media trend. It's just like dancing.
That's where I was going to go. It's not just that they're women that could do anywhere. This is what young women do and have done for time immemorial. They just couldn't put it on a video before. They get together, they laugh, they make jokes, they talk about, each other, their friends. All of these things are natural human things that they have made a criminal act. It's like there's a prohibition on joy.
Hey, that's another name for Islam.
Oh, baby, you're catching on.
It's true though. It's like that. That's part of what I think is what I find really sad about a lot of these stories about singing or dancing or, going to the movies with your friend, anything that is maybe just joyful, not necessarily religious or political or anything. It's just joy. They're young people. They're trying to have fun and they're making it a sanctionable offense.
Yeah. And I think Luke is saying moral is a very loose term in this contest. Well, it's funny you should say that because the lawyer for Mrs. al-Hathloul is saying the charges were very vaguely worded. Prison cannot be a solution, even if some of her videos go against our social norms and traditions. So this also kind of falls into the category of blasphemy in a way, in terms of it is so vague in the way that these are worded. It's vague enough to just impinge upon free expression wherever people see fit, as inciting debauchery and against family values. Like, I am so sick and tired of this family values rhetoric. It's like just dog whistling for fascism. Like, it's disgusting.
Well, it also, it's overly broad on purpose so that anything will fit into this category that anybody doesn't like, that anyone does, particularly if you're a woman, because even putting yourself on social media in the public sphere, that in and of itself is reprehensible to some of these people. They think it's bad, it's fitna, it's wrong. There might be men somewhere in the world who are imagining something about you. Okay. And that's your responsibility.
Well, because that sin does fall on your head, if I'm not
exactly mistaken. Yeah.
Armin, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you guys covered it fantastic.
It looked like you had a book that you were pulling up.
No, I was. I'm using it as a mouse pad.
Oh, I was like, oh, he has sources.
No. Okay. All right, can we clap for the next news?
It's not good, but let's clap because I think we have an interesting spin on it.
Okay, and nobody died,
yes.
Right? So next news.
4 arrested in Turkey over LGBTQ Kaaba art. 4 students who attend Istanbul's Boğaziçi University in Turkey were arrested due to artwork depicting LGBT rainbow symbols alongside an image of Islam's most sacred site, the Kaaba. For those who don't know, that is the big box thing that sits in the middle of Mecca. Some news outlets reported the indistinct description of LGB rainbow symbols alongside the Kaaba. To be more precise, the 4 different flags were portrayed in each corner, featuring the iconic rainbow flag and 3 others, each individually representing the lesbian, transsexual, and asexual communities. These flags surrounded a creative depiction of the Shamarana, which is a mythical creature well known in Middle Eastern folklore, which is a half woman, half snake, placed alongside the site of worship where the Kaaba stands. The text written below the artwork said that it was a critique of traditional gender roles. Well, what was the cause of this art? The disturbance at Istanbul's Boğaziçi University began last month when a new university rector, which is a senior official position within the educational institution, was appointed. Mali Bulu, the academic who assumed the position, has connections to President Recep Erdogan's Justice and Development Party, or AKP. Students and faculty protested, believing Bulu would stifle academic freedom at the prestigious school in Istanbul. The LGBT Kaaba art in question was submitted in an art exhibit intended as a form of resistance against the appointment of Bulu as the new rector. So unfortunately, you guys, I was not able to actually find a picture of this LGBTQ Kaaba art.
We have our own.
Yes, we have our own, but we're just going to have to rely on that description.
Can I show our own today?
Yeah, let's do that at the end of this news.
Okay. Rivka, you want to say something?
I find it so interesting that, like, the governor's office said the art was an ugly attack that mocked religious beliefs. It doesn't appear to have any derogatory words towards anyone. It doesn't, if it's just a rainbow. Again, it's this idea that religious prohibitions and religious taboos have to be adhered to by everyone in the public sphere, or somehow you are being discriminatory against the religious people. So you must submit to all of their prohibitions, dogmas, or you are the bad person for not submitting, and in turn you're hurting them, you're attacking them, you're making fun of them. And these are their deeply held beliefs, which people feel is somehow sacrosanct. Like, you can't criticize people's beliefs and you have to respect them. No, you don't.
Yeah, and the Interior Minister tweeted about this issue, calling the students deviants. The comment drew angry responses from some activists on social media who labeled it as hate speech and demanded that they delete the tweet. For more context, opposition to the LGBT community has been growing in the past 2 years, even though homosexuality has been legal throughout Turkey's modern history. The Pride March in Istanbul was banned for 5 consecutive years until 2019. So it was unbanned last year, but then it couldn't occur, obviously, because of the pandemic.
You know what I also think is really interesting? They're calling it hate speech. They're saying you're mocking our beliefs. It's almost as if they're admitting that their beliefs are bigoted or derogatory without actually saying it. Because if you actually say that just putting a rainbow next to my religious symbol is hate speech, you're saying, or that you're making fun of my beliefs, so my beliefs are anti-rainbow, and that in and of itself is not a very, you're anti-rainbow.
Well, there's also seemingly some presumably pagan iconography.
Yeah, and
this as
there's
well.
that too. But again, Egypt is not an
Turkey.
Turkey. Sorry, Turkey.
It's secular.
It's secular. It's not an Arab country, right? And it had a whole history before it was colonized by Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what some of those
liberated, they would say.
But I always want to make sure I always want to make sure to use the word colonized, because that is what happened.
Yeah.
And there's this assumption out in a lot of the world that there was no colonizing done, but anybody, but Europe.
How dare you talk about colonization not done by the whites, Rivka?
Exactly. I'll go flagellate myself at least thrice as soon as the news is over.
No, okay. Yeah, so as Rivka said, this is a public advertisement of how homophobic these people are. Like, thank you so much for making it clear about the fact that it's an insult to your religion to have anything LGBT related next to it. Thank you for making it more and more clear to the world how homophobic Islam is. I do also want to let people know that this is not a really good, like, I hope they're not listening to us, because this is such a self-own, because you are inviting, you're challenging us, you're advertising your sensitive spots, and you're like, don't poke me here, and then we're like,
baby,
consider it poked. Okay, and you want to read this?
Darwinian atheist is saying it's not colonized, it's called under new management.
All right.
But no, I wanted to read one more quote from this article. Chief advisor to President Erdogan, Ibrahim Kalin, said, quote, neither freedom of expression nor the right to protest could defend the artwork, adding that the act could receive a punishment it deserves before the law. And then according to a report by the governor's office in Istanbul, the police searched the students' rooms and seized LGBTQ pride flags. Conservative and pro-government users on social media also condemned the students. So yes, screw the AKP, okay? We stand for free expression. We stand for secularism in Turkey. And in solidarity with these students, we created our own protest art, but we put an Atheist Republic sexy spin on it. Oh, but we can't show that version at all.
No, we're gonna show you the safe for work version right now. But before I do that, I just want to let you guys know. Do you guys know the history behind the LGBT Kaaba? You know who did it first?
You did.
Yeah, Atheist Republic. If you search for LGBT Kaaba,
it's mostly our stuff that comes up.
We decided to go and change the Kaaba to rainbow drapes, right? So, and now we also have gay Kaaba being sold on t-shirts. If you guys want that, go just look it up on our store at atheistrepublic.com.
Oh shoot, I should have been wearing that shirt today.
Get it.
Oh, give me a second.
All right. While you go get that, should I show the art? Oh yeah, she's actually changing. Okay, I'm gonna show the art. Okay, hold on. While Susanna's changing,
perfect opportunity to get the art together.
Okay. I just want to make sure I don't bring the nude version, bring the non-nude version, or else we're gonna lose our YouTube channel. There we go. It's the correct one.
The bleeped versions.
Right. So again, we started the Rainbow Kaaba, and now we're bringing it back better than ever before. Wait, before I show the art, let's show Susanna. Hold on. Let me make this. We actually made a mistake. Hold on. There we go. This is the shirt. Allah is gay. And there's the art.
Yay! Gay, right? Gay.
Go gays! Go gays! Go gays!
Stop! No. No, but again, look at this. Look how far we've come. Atheist Republic is getting more and more artsy. Look at this. Look how beautiful this is, right? We started with just changing the Kaaba to the black drapes to rainbow. And now we have, look at this. Look at the level of detail in this art. Isn't it like if you actually zoom in, you can see like look at the detail.
Little stigmata.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we have the stigmata, and we have the Atheist Republic tattoo.
Mhm.
Isn't that just gorgeous? And we have Muhammad and Jesus sitting on top of the
Look how
Kaaba.
Muhammad's all hairy
Music
legs
guy was
and Jesus
asking. Music guy 20 was asking us for more gay, sexy, blasphemous art, and we delivered.
Yes.
He's saying,
yes.
I was happy when I saw the artwork and 3 drooling emojis, but need
Yeah.
more chest hair. No, zoom in on Muhammad.
So I'm saying Muhammad's hairy and Jesus is all like smooth.
Yes.
Like, look at that. Yes. Yes.
I'm really impressed with the detail on the Kaaba.
And then
We have the
Coast
best
Bunny is
artists.
saying, too bad we can't show the not safe for work version. It's pretty explosive.
Yeah, guys, the the not safe for work version is only available to our patrons, and it's one of the worst. I mean, by worst, I mean the best ones. When it comes if we show it anywhere, we will get nuked out of that platform.
Money shot. The money shot.
Mhm.
Oh yes, it's really something. Oof, I don't know if I say even more, we're gonna get that's how. By the way, we're gonna have more LGBT art. Okay, again, I know that a lot of people are gonna get upset that we're gonna have, when it comes to LGBT, we're gonna have more lesbian art than gay art. I mean, male on male art. But you can't blame us. Most of our audience are straight men. We have to, but we're not gonna, just because we're appealing to our straight male audience, that doesn't mean we're gonna ignore music guy and everyone else here. Okay, we're gonna make sure we have enough art for you as well. Okay. Anyways, I'm just being honest.
Did you go back to read Music Guy's last comment, please? It was cute. He says it's like a wedding cake. Lol.
It is like a wedding cake. Oh, if you're listening and you're not watching, it's because Jesus and Muhammad are sitting on top of the rainbow Kaaba, like a bride on top,
like
of
the wedding couple on a cake.
By the way, we have a newer version of this with the calligraphy. I haven't yet made the set for work version of that, but there's a beautiful Muhammad calligraphy and a beautiful in Arabic and Jesus in Hebrew showing here as well. A lot of people are saying, why does Jesus look white and blah blah blah? We're going with the most popular depictions. If you don't like it, sue us.
No,
it's art. It can be anything you want. You have artistic license to do what you will.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going with what people recognize. Most people recognize as Jesus. Okay, if it's not recognized as Jesus, it's not even going to work. Okay, so I don't, blame the people who made Jesus white.
Lighten up.
Was that intentional, or did you just notice it right after? No, not intentional.
I absolutely did that on purpose.
You know, okay. Wow. Oh no. I don't know if that's like spicy or not. We're gonna get in trouble for that. I don't know. All right, can we wait? Susanna is saying, I'm a straight male and I love lesbian art more than other LGBT. I mean, that's every single like all other straight males. All right.
But all of the art world, usually, if you look at most of the like figure drawings, a lot of the sculptures, at certain points there were a lot of men, but a lot of it's female centered. There's just usually more
the
aesthetic
form,
right? More aesthetic value. Sorry, guys, and I'm not saying that because I don't think you're not gorgeous.
So let's go to the next news.
All right. Can we clap for the next news?
No.
Ooh.
One actually does.
Oh, God damn it. All right. Next news.
Okay. Romanian baby dies due to baptism. During a baptism at a church in Romania, a priest completely immersed a baby's face in a baptismal font 3 times during baptism. The 6-week-old baby boy died from cardiorespiratory arrest the next day. When paramedics arrived, they resuscitated the baby in the church. They transported him to Sakeva County Hospital, where he was admitted to the intensive care unit, but he died only hours later, according to CNN affiliate Atena 3. Quote, I found out from doctors he'd inhaled 110 milliliters of water. He was bleeding from his nose, and we put his head down to get out the water, but he didn't recover. His heart was beating, but it was very weak, recounted the father. An online petition demanding changes to the baptismal ritual gathered more than 56,000 signatures within the first 3 days after this event.
This is so sad. I mean, I can't even imagine the pain that those parents are going through. But again, another example of religion causing real world harm to children, to vulnerable individuals. And, you know, this just begs all the, you know, incendiary comments that people would get butthurt about was, where was God during the baptism? You know, like, why didn't, you know, like all those kind of comments, which, I mean, I understand people make those jokes, but it's just so, so sad.
Mm-hmm.
That these, you know, I can't even, and you know that as parents, they've got to feel like, you know, it's not necessarily they didn't put the baby in the water, but just bringing the baby there, initiating it's awful. I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen footage of how they do so the way that they do baptisms is like very different than the baptisms that I was raised around. Like usually that just involved at the most it would be holding the baby like this with the head facing you, and you dip the back of the head down into the font and pull it back up. Others I've seen do it just sprinkling the holy water on the forehead. Like, I mean, I have some video here of how extreme some of the baptisms are in that region. I guess we can show it, maybe.
No, I think YouTube is going to see it as showing child abuse.
Probably not, because it's religious. But I'd like you to, if we could, go back to Darwinian Atheist comment, because he made a comment. It says baptisms and circumcisions need to be fought against and taken more seriously. Yes, absolutely agreed. Children die from these things. This is not a harmless thing that happens. It has actual physical harm.
Sorry if you already mentioned this. I'm doing so many things at the same time. Do you mention how many babies have died from this?
I don't know if there's like a total count. This was just one baby that died in Romania. But if you guys want to see what this practice looks like, because this seems to be this form of baptism where the whole face is submerged seems to be more spread throughout kind of Eastern Europe. Google like Georgia Orthodox baptism. And you'll see a pretty it's really bad extreme baptisms in the country of Georgia. So different country, yeah. But based on the descriptions I've read of this news, it seems to be basically the same practice where they just upside down like dunk the whole body in. Or I've seen footage where they actually put the face down in the water. Just to be clear, the church says that this is, well, they dispute the events naturally. They say that if this is how it was done, then that's not proper procedure. This isn't how it's supposed to be done. This person wasn't doing it right. You know, so that's their side of the story.
I want to say one thing though, that I'm at least happy to see some accountability, whether it's followed through or not, but they say that police have launched an investigation to a potential manslaughter charge.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
These people, but no one's been charged yet, but there, at least that's out there, that people are saying, look, whether you intended to do it or not, the child died from, you know, actions that you took. It's criminal manslaughter.
I want to follow up on my question because some people might say, so devil's advocate accuses us of making a big deal out of just one incident that doesn't say much about the practice as a whole. Like they say, like, yeah, this is a very tragic event and it should be investigated and people should be punished or whatever. But you are using this tragedy as a way to attack a practice that as a whole is pretty safe, especially if it's done the way that the church says it's supposed to be done. And you don't have the numbers to suggest like this is just one incident. Why are you making like I don't want to say why you're making such a big deal out of it, because it is a big deal, but why are you making it a judgment on the practice as a whole? So how would you guys respond to that? I'm just being devil's advocate here.
All right, Rivka, were you saying something?
I was going to, but go ahead. I realized I was muted.
You go ahead.
You were talking about why are we making a big deal of it? Well, it's a big deal because a child died.
Okay. Sorry, as Rivka, I have to interrupt you. I very specifically said that that's not the right wording. The person, the devil's advocate is not that this is not a big deal, that this is a big deal and it should be investigated and people should be punished. However, this doesn't speak to the practice as a whole. Like you guys are making it. So I said you saying this is not a big deal.
Okay,
it's not the right
sorry.
language.
I was sorry.
Yeah.
Well, the practice as a whole, well, it's hard to say. I mean, if there's no standards, how do we know what the practice as a whole is? Maybe there's things that we don't know about. Are there supposed standards? Is it, throughout the world? It doesn't appear that way. Have they written a manual saying that in order to prevent injury to infants, this is how you must do it? And the thing is, the Catholic Church has the ability to do that. There's the Pope in the Vatican who can issue these decrees. They're an organization that has a head and then, a hierarchy of people who are supposed to follow certain things. So,
well, I'm pretty sure that this is the Orthodox Church.
Okay, but they still have a head of
like
their
a high
church.
scion or something.
Yeah, they still have the head. Sorry, I forgot it's Romania. But they still have someone who's above this guy in the church in Romania that could. So whether it's one or none, the ceremony itself could potentially be dangerous to children. So it needs to be seen that way from the beginning, even before any children unfortunately got hurt. And it doesn't seem like there's any kind of uniformity as a way to make sure children aren't injured.
Well, and to people saying, oh, this doesn't speak to the practice as a whole. Yeah, so let's highlight this to make sure that's not true. Right? That's my stance.
Okay, so for example, I think Love Bunny didn't understand what I'm trying to say. So Love Bunny is saying, how many babies need to die for this to be taken seriously? Nip it in the bud now before. No, I mean, if, for example, if an irresponsible parent uses a baby tool or whatever in a way that is not that they're not supposed to, I don't know, like for example, if you put a baby seat, I'm not a parent, so I don't know. If you put a baby seat in a car in a way that you're not supposed to, you put it in the front seat and you make it face the window instead of making it sideways, and there's an accident and the baby goes flying through the window and dies or something, you don't ban that baby seat because the parent uses, if you say like, oh, well, statistically, this is one incident and it doesn't show anything about the inefficiency of the baby seat, that doesn't mean that you're dismissing this event as a big issue. You're saying that the baby seat as a whole is not a problem. So somebody could say like, maybe it was just this one priest, maybe he did it wrong, you guys are using it as an excuse. I'm not suggesting that this is not a big deal, but again,
right, I get what you're saying, but to go with your baby seat analogy, that actually is something that does happen. When people use products continually wrong, or it's not clear, or the instructions, people change those products as a result of
continually. Like this is again, this is one incident. This is one incident.
So even if it's only one, they will make it so the product functions in a way that it's clear and that it doesn't harm children. And oftentimes they will make these products to function regardless of whether it's operator idiocy. Okay. So that's why I was using the example of the practice. It does speak to the practice because they should have standards and understanding that there's a potential for something to happen. And therefore it needs to be addressed before something happens in the practice itself. Yeah. Which is maybe why they went to the couple droplets, but then they abandoned that. I don't know, but I'm using that as sort of to highlight your metaphor about the car seat.
Yeah, I just want to make sure like we're not so our audience learns not to be so trigger happy when it comes to accusing religion or religious practices just because we're atheist activists. Like we don't like things need to be investigated. That doesn't mean just because it works in our agenda to be like, oh, this religious practice is harmful, just jumping on that bandwagon. You should just be a little bit, I'm just trying to suggest holding back a little bit and being skeptical.
No, I actually appreciate that because it incites better discussion and it also sort of breaks down what it is we're talking about and allows us to explain what it is we mean or to find the flaws in our own reasoning.
All right, cool. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot in the live chat. Ghost Bunny, I hope you're not upset with me. All right. Should we go to the next news? Can we clap for the next news?
Yes.
Next news.
Next news. Women's rights activist Loujain al-Hathloul released from Saudi prison. Yes.
Do people know what Rivka is doing when she does that?
Oh, if they're not, they need to get with the program.
Okay. All right, continue.
I can do it pretty well myself. Anyways, so Loujain al-Hathloul, the Saudi activist who gained international attention as she publicly opposed the ban on female drivers in the nation, was placed in custody by the Saudi government in May of 2018 due to her activism. She was initially detained in 2014 for over 2 months when she posted a video of herself online as she attempted to drive from the United Arab Emirates into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In December 2020, she was sentenced to nearly 6 years by a special Saudi court ordinarily reserved only for terrorism. I'm using coded language. Reserved only for terrorism and threats to Saudi's national security. By that time, she had already served over 1,001 days of confinement. She was accused of using the internet to stir up controversy and for seeking out foreign involvement, charges that human rights groups saw as politically motivated. The timing of her release indicates the likelihood the Saudi government is attempting to appease President Biden. Biden recently requested a quote-unquote reassessment of the U.S.-Saudi relationship due to Saudi's record of human rights violations. So this is fantastic news. There are a lot of aspects to this, though, that I want to cover. So one aspect of this is that she was sentenced in December after her case had been in one court system for a long time, and then very suddenly it was moved to this terrorism court. And then within about a month of being moved to this terrorism court, she was sentenced to 6 years. Now, or 5 to 6 years. Now, because of the time that she had already served in confinement, she was allowed to have her sentence or her continued confinement diminished based on the idea of time served because she had been in prison.
Sentence based on her.
Thank you. Yeah, commuted. because she had already been imprisoned since 2018. And so that means that she was supposed to get released this March, actually. However, she has been released early, and this is fantastic. So one thing, I mean, honestly, so I'm going to show you guys some pictures in a second. I cried about this earlier today. I was just thinking about everything this woman has been through. She's been horrifically tortured in prison, waterboarded, electrocuted, beaten until she was blue and can hardly stand. She was sexually abused in prison for years, right? She undertook a number of hunger strikes throughout her confinement, often to demand visitation rights with her family. And now, like, as soon as very quickly, when the Biden administration came through the front door, now she's released early. Now, I do want to be clear that she has to still remain, she can't travel outside of the country for, I think she's on parole for about 3 years, and then she can't exit the country for about 5 years. And analysts are viewing this basically as a way to disincentivize her from activism, at least for the next several years. But it's fantastic news that she was released early. And I think it is even more fantastic that actions like this, that are the release of an individual, are seemingly so far are not coming at the cost of the U.S. turning a blind eye to the millions of people that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is persecuting with their ongoing conflict with Yemen, and how they have weaponized mass starvation. Okay, so I think it's important to highlight that you Armin in the corner, like, yes, queen. That
Bring it.
It's very easy for things like this to get all the shine, because it is incredible, right? This woman is a freaking warrior. So it is incredible that she's released, but they can also be seen as highly as marketing, in a sense, for the regime, to show, oh, look at like what we're doing. We released her early. We commuted this sentence, like trying to somehow cater in their favor, and in an effort to distract from the even uglier stuff behind the curtain, right? But the Biden administration is coming out hard against the Saudis, and I love to see this happening on both fronts. That fighting for the release of individuals is not thus far coming at the cost of protecting millions.
I saw some commentary, directly thanking Joe Biden, so it's not just, I'm not sure who it was. I don't think it was Loujain, but it's not just that people are perceiving it to be Biden, adjacent. The receiving end people are also as well, and people in the country. So we'll see. I mean, I'm glad that he's holding their feet to the fire with Yemen. I'm glad that for her that this is happening. It must feel really good to be, released, regardless of whether you still have some probation that may be unfair or not. I mean, you can see it in the photos that she just seems radiant with happiness of her that I've seen since she's been released.
This was some photos that her sister posted today, actually. And I'm so happy to see her free. I mean, I can't imagine what she's been through, and
So correct me if I'm wrong. She was arrested shortly before they actually made women be able to drive. She was kidnapped outside of Saudi Arabia and then brought to jail. Even though driving became legal, they still took her to prison and tortured her.
Yes.
Right.
So she was essentially kidnapped from the UAE back to Saudi, and then a few months after, basically like within 2 months, if not less, of her arrest, that's when the regime made it legal for women to drive.
Basically the message is that when we make something legal, it will be on our terms. You will still be punished for speaking out.
Yes. And the change comes from the top down. You don't get to fight for change. The regime decides what's change is. Right. And also it's a way for them to claim the shine of being reformers. The thing is, her husband was also essentially kidnapped from Jordan. So her husband is a Saudi comedian. And I was reading about his situation earlier today. So it is rumored that he was pressured into divorcing her in about 2018, likely shortly after she was arrested. And I don't know what his whereabouts are. So what I've read is that he was essentially kidnapped from Jordan back to Saudi. And I was looking for news about him today. I can't find anything about his whereabouts.
All right, but let's...
Did he divorce her?
Yes.
Just curious.
Just to be clear, we're not suggesting anything. We just don't know.
Yeah, no, but that's my question. Where
I know. Because sometimes I just want to be careful, because sometimes there are some people who ask a question without answering it, but they're saying something without acting like they're saying something. Okay, we're not. We actually just generally we just don't know. So, right? Am I?
I was looking for information about him today. I couldn't find. I mean, he could just be keeping a low profile. All his social media is deleted.
Right. Yeah, maybe that's just it.
All I could find was information about him being taken from Jordan, but then I couldn't find information about what happened afterwards. So for all I know, he could be free, but I'm like, what?
Yeah, but there are many explanations for that. What we don't know is what we don't know.
We're speculating, I guess, would be the...
Yeah. I just want to be careful with not suggesting something. Sorry, I know I'm being too careful. I might seem being too careful. I've seen a lot. Okay, people just use use their content creators skepticism to just fill in the holes sometimes, right? So just I need to be careful with that. I do want to mention that these are the people that move history forward. These are the people who take personal risks to their own lives, to their own safety, to their own happiness for the sake of everyone else. And if you think that's uncalled for and people shouldn't do that, you're an ungrateful idiot who doesn't understand that every single right that you enjoy right now, wherever you are, is because somebody at some point decided to risk their lives, their happiness, and their safety for your sake. And now any sense of safety, any sense of any right that you enjoy today, any sense of security that you have, any time that you get to say something that challenges the standard narrative without any pushback from the government, any time that you have any even the smallest amount to say in how the government is run, even if it's small, is because somebody at some point decided to do what this woman did here. So you need to be grateful. Okay. I do also want to mention that she's not free. She's not been freed.
She's released from prison.
Yeah,
right. So she's not incarcerated in jail, but she's not free.
Yes. So they basically try to sometimes send a sense of signal to the world, a sense of somebody has been freed, but they're heavily monitored. They're outside of the jail. They can't leave the country. So technically, they're still in a different kind of jail, and they could go back at any time. And she needs to get out of there. Okay, and they know that if she gets out of there, she's going to be a major liability to them. So technically, she's still in jail, maybe not a literal jail, but she's still in jail. So that's and she needs to get free, not just like
Mhm.
out of jail free. Another thing I want to point out is that this does show that pressure works. So for the people who feel like, well, this is how things are, no, pressure by somebody like, again, this is multiple degrees of pressure, right? So Biden administration pressuring Saudi Arabia, it does produce results. So it's not like the Saudis do whatever they want without external forces not having any influence. There are many examples like this that show that there's some influence, but also your pressure works, because the reason why Biden even gives a crap about this is because of all the activists that decided to push the Biden administration for making this an issue for the Biden administration, right? So all the small little activists here and there that contributed to raising this issue, they pushed Biden, and Biden pushed Saudi Arabia. So don't tell me you can't do anything, that we have zero influence. Oh, this sucks, but what can we do? These are examples of the fact that you can do things, okay? And one last thing, two last things, no, just one, is that please understand that the people, Saudi's government and Mohammed bin Salman, they are garbage human beings and they're monsters. And when it comes to human rights, very little progress has been made, because this is one person. The Saudi's government is responsible for the murder of hundreds of thousands of people within their borders, but especially in Yemen, mostly in Yemen, and the starvation of children, torture, crucifixion, beheadings, way more than ISIS and the other group. We're not going to mention the names because of YouTube standard rules and stuff. Saudi government is way worse than all of those combined. And is it a contradiction for us to highlight the fact that this is one person compared to all those other people that Saudi government has harmed, while we celebrate this? No, there's no, because some people think that you could either do one. You could point to the fact that this is just one person that just got free, one person that was being tortured, that is getting a lot of highlight, but many hundreds of other thousands of people who are being tortured and killed by the Saudi government, they're not getting any attention. They think that's one side, and the other side is the people who are celebrating this woman's release. And they think that you can't do that at the same time. No, you could do both of those things at the same time. You could celebrate this woman's release, you could be happy about it, and you could also be part of the activism that contributed to her release. And you could also be like, by the way, this is one individual. There are hundreds of other thousands of other people, many of them children, who are suffering from this. One of them is not trying to take the attention to the other one, take attention away from the other one. You could do both at the same time. Anyways, Rivka.
Two things. So I liked how you really highlighted how so many things come down to the action of individuals, because so many of us feel like the actions that we take don't make a difference, but they do, just in a lot of ways. And often it's these small, seemingly unnoticed people plugging away at something that ends up actually, the water doesn't go through the rock because it's stronger. It goes through the rock because it's persistent. So I think that that's important. And then I wanted to say that sometimes highlighting just one individual actually benefits the greater amount of individuals who may not have the highlight, because it gives a personal story to that then people can empathize with or have compassion for. And then often those reflect, especially if you're talking journalistically or somebody talking about all the others, So once you hear about one, then you have more of a potentiality to hear about the others and to be concerned about it or to pay attention to it.
All right, we should go to the next news. Can we?
My final note is that I am my sincerest hope under the Biden administration is that more and more political prisoners within Saudi are released.
Yes. And also, we hope that Biden continues to pressure Saudi Arabia to end the war in Yemen as well.
And ditto for me too.
Great. Yeah. Good addition. Thank you. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, because it's time for Atheist Republic news.
Next news.
So guys, we made it. Okay. So for those who are not aware, the Caravan magazine posted an article about how Facebook has blocked our page from all viewers in India, and how both of us, myself and Armin, have been fully suspended on Twitter. And this is very exciting for a lot of different reasons. One, because I worked really hard on getting this story published. And I couldn't have done it. It would have been impossible to do this without the support from our community members in India. The network that I've built there of our community members, of journalists, of lawyers is absolutely invaluable to me. So I want to say thank you to our community in India. But this is really exciting for a lot of different reasons. One, I'm so happy that someone is covering this. It's important that the Caravan is covering this, because they have been subject to a block from the Indian government itself, or themselves. And also, this is exciting because the journalist who wrote this story was, his name is Tushar Dahra. He was able to confirm, he confirmed with Facebook that they did this on a government directive. This is one thing about journalists. They can get people on the phone that I can't get on the phone.
Wow.
So this is a huge feather in our cap, because we were just piecing together information and likelihoods about what was going on. But now we have confirmation that we are blocked in India from our community, which is over 300,000 members in India, on a government directive, that this is a government action that has put this forward, and that Facebook is complying with this. So that confirmation is super good news to me.
The Caravan, I mean, a lot of people in India know the Caravan. Like, some people love it, some people hate it, some people are indifferent, but it's a well-known publication, right? So this does give us a lot of, opportunities for us to continue this with other journalists to move this forward with this, right? Like, this gives the story a lot of legitimacy in India. So this is a fantastic win by Susanna. Susanna, amazing work. Like, you guys don't know how much she works behind the scenes, but this is, and the level of research and analysis and the meetings that she has been having behind the scenes. Amazing work, Susanna. And also, and thank you again to all the people that we cannot even publicly. There are a lot of people from India that are supporting us, and we can't even mention them because of the risk that this would bring to them. So thank you to all those people. And if more people want to be able to reach out to you, Susanna, with connections, with legal connections, journalists, or anything, or any connections with Twitter India, Facebook India, YouTube India, how can they now that you've been blocked on Twitter as well? guys, India's government is coming for us. Like, they took out. They took down my Twitter account. They take down Susanna's Twitter account without even
we don't know
warning.
why. We don't know why I'm gone on Twitter. We still don't know.
But no notifications, even
you know who doesn't have a Twitter account that they haven't even been able to block yet?
You.
Yeah. All right,
So
but
maybe
let
we
me.
could have one.
Yeah, no, but even without any mention of any violations that she has done, like she's been removed from Twitter. A lot of ISPs, again, not all, but some major ISPs in India have blocked our website in India at the government's behest. And then there is also our Facebook with our Facebook page was okay. So for people who don't know, on YouTube we're not that big, but on Facebook we are 2,400,000 followers on Facebook. It's Atheist Republic. This is the world's largest atheist community, right? And 300,000 of those people were from India.
That's
And now
the second largest national population in our community in India, seconded only by the United States.
Yeah. So basically, the second largest community population of our community, which is our Indian followers, have been like overnight blocked at the by Facebook at the request of the Indian government, without any explanation to us or any reasoning, nothing, just like that. And now also they're taking us in India. They're taking Atheist Republic all the way to the Supreme Court, which is amazing, right? So all of this is happening, and this is, I mean, we have the world's largest political party, which is the BJP, against like the world's largest atheist community, which is us, but we're like which is nothing. Which is
a real David and Goliath story, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But so we get very little with the very little resources that we have. We're trying to make some noise about this, so maybe somebody could hear. And this is, I mean, I know this might not seem like a huge amplifier to the people with bigger resources and bigger media, but for us this is very significant. Like a legitimate publication, a well-known publication in India is talking about this case, and I'm hoping that this is going to be our way to find our way back to a lot of Indians, right? Through our YouTube channel and through this journalist highlighting Atheist Republic, because we're not going to give up. Like you guys, like BGP wants to like chase us out of India.
Oh, you want a tango?
We're not gonna
tango.
give up. We're not giving up our Indian following. Okay, we're not. We have a lot of fans in India. And Atheist Republic is not just gonna abandon them. Like I know BGP is literally a government, but we're not gonna let them stop us. Okay?
We're gonna go there, and we're gonna build a gay Kaaba there.
Right. No, yeah, yeah.
But I wanted to say that actually it might actually get people to investigate us when especially now that in Caravan it's some coverage, because often the more people try to tell people not to do things, then they become interested in it. And obviously we've really we're succeeding, I think, because we've gotten to them. They're reacting to us. So I think that that's actually a positive.
And there's something interesting in this. So this article highlights, they actually got the lawyer who's basically a nuisance lawyer at this point on the phone. And so they talked to him, and he talks about how some of his motivation behind this is basically preventing religious violence. But here's the deal. So they're putting the onus on the people's speech to not incite violence, and not even incite violence, because that's a specific thing, but to inflame tensions and cause communal disharmony, that trademarked phrase at this point. So it's on the onus of people with their free expression to be criminalized and punished for what they do, right? Instead of actually holding the people responsible who are committing the religious violence itself, right? So it's completely ridiculous. And it actually shows a very, I think that this actually demonstrates a very bigoted
exactly what I was going to say.
Religious, because it is saying we have to curb what you can say, we have to curb what you can do, because we think so poorly of these people that we think that they're going to just take it upon themselves to cause violence, but we're not actually going to hold the people committing the violence responsible.
It is a terrible thing to say about a lot of people, religious people or otherwise, because what they're saying is that they're savages and they're unable to control their behavior. And the minute something, is said that, gets them upset or that is against what they believe, then they become these, monsters who commit this horrific violence. And so the onus again is on the people who say it rather than the committers. And also, I mean, it almost sounds like what they're saying is, she shouldn't have worn such a short skirt. And why was she walking there alone at night?
Well, and the thing is, the justification of this lawyer is eerily similar to the justification given by the lawyers who filed the original petition against Mubarak Bala, the Nigerian atheist activist who has been detained since April of 2020. In the petition that I read, filed by those lawyers who were behind his arrest, or that filed the petition that led to his arrest, basically said his post where he compares Prophet Muhammad to a terrorist, using coded language, is dangerous because of the violence that Muslims will go cause. So they're blaming him for the violence that they posit that Muslims will go cause. Again, belying an incredible bigotry of low expectations. I'm like, you're telling on yourself. If I was a Muslim, I would be offended by this.
That's the same as like the drawing the cartoons or saying anything, that somehow that in and of itself is the problem, not the violence in the ideology is the problem. Or the, support of violence by governments or the, sectarian inflaming, all of that. That's not any of the problem.
But I never answered Armin's question. Guys, I am still looking for other people to talk to about this. If you know journalists or legal support or anyone else who'd be interested in talking about the story, you can reach out to me at Susanna at atheistrepublic.com. That's my email. But we got like a few super chats.
We got super chats and we got comments. Before we go to that, I need to mention that some people keep saying that, the Caravan is a very lefty publication. It's really amazing that you think that even matters. Like you're like, Caravan, yes, very lefty. Who gives a crap? We got this out there, and this is a well recognized. Like the fact that you think that that's even relevant here, and you guys using that as a form of criticism against this publication, you guys don't see. You guys are. Some of you are just idiots. I'm sorry to say that, right? So yeah, this has been very helpful to us. Doesn't matter if it's a right-wing publication, a left-wing publication. This is very helpful to our cause. But go on.
And I can attest that what's written in here is all incredibly accurate. It's not like it's like, I'd be fine if this was a right-wing publication and it was published in OP India. Well, I wouldn't be okay with that because they're horrible with their fact-checking and their misinformation. Reading this article, it's incredibly well written. And it's factual, right? So you can talk about the bias of any given publication, but let's talk about what's actually presented in any given article. Do you want me to read that comment?
No, I just wanted to highlight it, but let's read, hold on. No, this one first. Really quickly read them.
Susanna is saying Islamists couldn't get you suspended like the Hindutva because Hindutavis are well placed within major organizations like Facebook, Twitter, etc. Yeah, the Wall Street Journal reports on that. Susanna is saying Pakistan, India, now Malaysia, you guys are really rattling governments across the world. Oh boy, it's true. Has intensified, especially after Susanna became CEO. Good job, Susanna. Oh, yes. Thank you. Well, I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for Armin's recklessness on Twitter. So Aluza Akbar gave us $10. Wow, thank you. And it's a super sticker, and it's of a pear going number 1. Darwinian Atheist is saying, damn, the Hindutva is not as uneducated as they seem. A lot of techies that lost their job are techies and hackers that and join IT cells for money. Yep. Yeah, they get some IT cells get paid by the tweets.
Oh no, we already read that one. Okay, here.
And Salva Kumar gave us 100 rupees. Wow, thank you, Salva Kumar. Saying congrats on getting the story out. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And let me see if there was anything else. Oh, here, this one.
Darwinian Atheist is saying the youth in India is largely irreligious or atheist. Even the Muslims, this is not a generalization like how I always do. It's a fact. Well, I'd like to see some polling on that, actually, because that would actually help me feel more optimistic about India right now.
Okay, 2 more comments.
Kumar saying divided by religions, united by right-wing bigotries.
Yes. And this is a lovely comment, so we just end this with this comment.
Mach Nun is saying, hey everyone, just want to say how much I appreciate Atheist Republic. I've really enjoyed the content on all the multiple platforms online. Well, thank you. And guys, go follow us on Twitch.
Yes,
good reminder to go follow us on Twitch.
Anyways, I'm late, and thank you so much, Rivka and Susanna, for your amazing commentary and all the work that you do. Seriously, I don't know how Atheist Republic is so lucky to have you guys. And I have to go, so just make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us on Twitch, and subscribe to our newsletter if you want to get our free blasphemous art. And I'm going to go, hopefully today, add some more art to the booklet. So there's going to be an updated version, and you don't need to unsubscribe and resubscribe to get the latest version of the booklet. Every single email that we send out is not every. Most of the emails that we send out has going to have the link to the latest version of the booklet. So if you want to get our blasphemous art, just subscribe to our newsletter, and I'll make sure that everybody that is already subscribed gets the latest version of the booklet with all the art in there. Anyways, thank you, everyone. Anything else, Susanna, Rivka? No? All right.
Over and out, heathens.
Perfect. All right. Bye.